Welcome back, students, to this part 2, second part of our discussion regarding Rohinton Mistri's novel, Such a Long Journey. The first point that you need to consider or you need to focus on is that the novel, Such a Long Journey, starts with, or this title of the novel is taken from the famous poem, The Journey of the Magi, written by T.S. Eliot. The poem goes on like this: a cold coming we had of it, just the worst time of the year, for a journey, and such a long journey. So it is an epitaph from the Journey of the Magi, written by T.S. Eliot, which Rohinton Mistry has taken. So Eliot's poem is extremely emblematic in this regard because the journey of three wise men who wants to visit the birthplace of Jesus Christ, as we find in the biblical mythology, those three men undertook a hazardous journey and overcome many problems and difficulties in life. Likewise, our protagonist Gustav Nobel, he undertakes a very tremendous, onerous journey in his life, and ultimately he overcomes the problem to a certain degree. Uh, this is an analogous treatment, a literary strategy implemented by the author in this novel, which is also symbolic, representing the long journey of the protagonist Gustav, who overcomes many ups and downs of life. So, if a question comes in your exam regarding the title of the novel, you should include this point. This is very significant. Now, a major controversy with this novel is that, the political controversy that erupted when this novel was published. You see, this novel refers to the rise of the political party of Shiv Sena, which was established by Bala Saheb Thackeray. And Rohinton Mistry here he had written some denigrative remarks about Bala Saheb Thackeray and the entire politics of Shiv Sena. So this minor Parsi community was shaken by the rise of Shiv Sena in Bombay during the mid-60s, 1960s, as the party promises to give job for the middle class people who are originally Marathi. Their racial identity was prioritized. The party is against the South Indian immigrants and the North Indian workers, typical immigrants from Tamil Nadu or Uttar Pradesh or Bihar, who are job seekers in the city of Bombay. The party Shiv Sena is in this novel is despised by the Parsi people. The supporters of Shiv Sena ill-treated the individuals of Parsi community, commenting as the Parsi crow eaters, and furthermore offending the community's funeral ceremonies, the process of cremation. So Dinsoji and Gustad are frightened at the Parsis they might become the second class citizen in the city of Bombay. So here we find the anxiety, the agony of a minority community in India, who are traumatized by a political rise, by a particular political fascist ideology. You see, when this is point number 2. Point number 3 is Rohinton Mistry portrays the pitiable condition of Major Jimmy Billy Moria, who was just a pawn in the political game of deception, right, and intrigue, and he describes the painful, the wretched condition while Billy Moria in his deathbed. He writes, "On the bed lay nothing more than a shadow." I'm quoting from the novel. "The shadow of the powerfully built army man who once lived in Khodadat building. His hairline had receded and sunken cheeks made the bones just sharp and grotesque. The regal hand labor moustache was no more. His eyes had disappeared within their sockets. The neck, what he could see of it, was as scrawny as poor behest Dinsoji's. while under the sheet there seemed barely a trace of those strong shoulders and deep chest which Gustad and Dilnawaz used to point out as a good example to their sons, reminding them always to walk erect with chest out and stomach in, like Major Uncle. So, man who is no more. I would also like to refer to the contemporary, or not contemporary, but 10 years ago, the political controversy that again erupted regarding Mystery's novel. You see, this novel was included in the syllabus of Mumbai University in the course Bachelor of Arts in English as an optional text. Now, the present tourism minister of Maharashtra, Aditya Thackeray, when he was a student of the St. Xavier's College, he lodged a complaint and a protest that this novel contains abusive language against his grandfather and his affiliated political party of Shiv Sena, and due to the political pressure, the vice chancellor actually had withdrawn this text from the syllabus of Mumbai University. Uh, this novel also puts forward a scathing critique, a vehement critique against the Congress Supremo Indira Gandhi's political regime. And the then Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Ashok Chauhan, uh, he said in an interview that this book, Rohinton Mystery's book, contains highly abusive and objectionable language. So, a literator who had departed, or I mean, who had gone to another country from his motherland, India, Rohinton Mystery, he now stays at Canada with his family. So, it is very disheartening for an author to be involved in a political scuffle, right? And by political pressure, the faculties had to coerce with the institution, with the authority, to withdraw this text. So this novel actually questioned, critically or scathingly interrogated the political bankruptcy of two prominent ideologies, or two contemporary dominant political ideology or hegemony, right? So this is very important. Now, the apartment where these Parsi people used to live, the Khodadar building, this is an epitome, a microcosm of of the condensed India, the libertarian outlook, the progressive liberal outlook of our secular country, because the wall that has been constructed along the building, it contains the deities and images of all religions, be it Hindus or Buddhists or Parsi or Jains. And Gustave Noble was quite sure, he was certain that this wall would protect his residence. But we see in the novel that the Mumbai Municipal Corporation uh, had broken the wall for the construction of road, expansion of road. So this is also a threatening on the physical level projected against a minor Parsi protagonist. So on two levels, on the metaphorical psychological level, this community or this man is in a crisis, in agony, and on the physical level, his life was threatened, right? And not only his life, but also the well-being of his family is jeopardized. uh, Now at last we should come to this the business prospect of this novel. You see, it is a history. It is true that this Parsi community were very affluent, very rich, and before the nationalization of bank, I mean, all the banks, all the government undertaking banks like be it SBI or UBI or Central Bank of India or Allahabad Bank or any bank, these are all national banks, and these banks were nationalized by our former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. It was during her regime that these banks directly came under the government, and now these banks are regulated by the government. But before this aspect of this nationalization of the private banks, the Parsi community used to be the bankers. They used to lend money to the individuals and used to gain huge profit. So they were the hereditary businessmen, people associated with commerce, and they were very much affluent. Hardly any Parsi used to do a government job or service. Now, Ustad, his forefathers were very rich, right? And due to some false steps, false steps taken by Ustad's uncle, uh, the financial status of their family gradually decreased. Now, that is why Gustad always fears, he is afraid about the future of his son Sohra, who has a very promised career to pursue a course in engineering in the IIT Bombay. But that is why he is afraid, that he is not sure whether his next generation would prosper or not. So this is another crisis generated, emerging in his life. Right. Now, in this novel, there is also a reference to this, and in this way, the author is also criticizing the political steps done by our another former Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, who is the father of Indira Gandhi. During the Indo-China War, and many historians and many political critics actually says that it was a major political drawback on part of India, as India lost in the war against China, right? And it was one of the major diplomatic failure of Nehru's regime. So the defeat to China was very humiliating, and during this defeat, after the defeat, the windows of Khoda building, Gustad had covered the windows with blackout paper and put up 9 years ago in the year 1962. So Gustad, he believes that Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru was slow to react to the war, in denial that a brother country would have so, and once accepting the reality, he was heartbroken, right? So the situation was increasingly bitter and rancorous, and Nehru lost focus on running the country, and he fixed his attention instead to the succession of his daughter India. Now, a similar, a parallel comparison can be drawn in this novel, where Gustad, also feeling betrayed by his friend, does not allow himself to live in denial, and he is also aware of the challenges and inequalities of life, and he has also fixed his attention, he has concentrated his attention on his eldest son Sohrab, for whom he would sacrifice anything that has already risked his life for. So, a political metaphor is very minutely, very intricately included in the pages of the text. You should also be aware of this political comparison. Right? Just read the novel very minutely. Think over its social, political, economic, communal, and racial aspects, its commentaries, critique of the contemporary government, the corruption present in the dark corners of society, and most importantly, the journey of an individual, a lower middle class individual, facing all the hurdles, the obstacles of life, who is powerless against the authority, the state, the government, right, and the dominant, the prevalent hegemonic apparatuses. So, do read the novel And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to communicate with me.